Nessa sessão, eu converso com Louis Jacques Filion. Ele é nossa atração internacional, professor da Escola de Negócios de Montreal. O Louis Jacques é um dos grandes nomes do empreendedorismo mundial e tem muito para compartilhar com a gente. Então fique agora com a minha conversa com Louis Jacques Filion. You say that to start a business is not enough to control finances or management. You need to make a deep self-analysis, since the successful entrepreneur knows how to make good reading of themselves. So I want to start with a three-part question, or three questions in one. How can a woman who wants to start her own business can do that? Which important issues must she evaluate to find out that she can be a good entrepreneur? And how can she decide for a specific business? How can she decide where to start a business? What's her niche?
You know, it's very hard for somebody to work it alone. You need a mentor. Yeah, you need a mentor, or because people who start businesses, they normally speak with somebody. You cannot do that alone. To start a business means that you work with somebody. You can find a mentor, somebody who has already been an entrepreneur, or somebody who has experience in business, and you find somebody who has already done it. Because you know, if you want to play football, soccer, you will have to play with somebody who has already played. If you go in a field and you've never played soccer, I mean, it would take you ages to learn. If you go with somebody who already played, you will learn all the rules within about 15 minutes, and you will have all the basic within half an hour, and you will progress very quickly if you work with a player who has experience. So starting a business is a craft. It's something you do. So you don't you don't play a game. If you will learn to play a game with people who have experienced it. You don't start playing a game in whatever, if you go with a tennis racket and you don't know how to play tennis and you just throw a ball, will take you ages to learn. So entrepreneurship is the same. You need to work with people who have experience. And you have all kinds of people in Brazil, with Sebrae, with Yale, with Senai. There are all kinds of incubators, all kinds, of systems where you can use people who know what it means to start a business. And eventually, it's much easier if you can find somebody who has already done it, will go very fast in the learning process. And then the person will ask you the right question. Otherwise, you don't know what questions to ask. So to start a business is a craft. You don't become a plumber or an electrician or a lawyer overnight. You need to learn. And one of the problem is that you have 70, 50, 60, 70% of the people who try to start a business, and then they give up, and they give up and they don't touch it again, because they have gone doing something with no preparation, no learning. And entrepreneurship requires a lot of learning.
And you say that we should find a mentor, but probably someone who has already been there. Not entrepreneur mentor, someone who has done it before.
Yeah, sure. That's the way. But you can also use the services of people who are there to help others to start businesses, and they will ask you some basic questions. People at Sebrae are very good at it.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think are the main characteristics entrepreneurs should have? I mean, if I decide that I want to go into this path, which characteristics should I look for in myself that will tell me that I'm prepared?
People have to be curious. They are people who are curious about things. So, second, they are learners. They want to learn. They ask questions, they look around, they observe, they read, they speak with people. So they are curious, they are learning, they are courageous, they are tenacious. And these are key qualities. If you have these qualities, you will find something at your level that will help you to become a good entrepreneur.
You said that entrepreneurship is like a culture, a way of life, which can be developed over the years. But what would be your advice to develop these skills?
It's good. It's good if you read. If you read biographies of entrepreneurs, you should read biographies of entrepreneurs. You will discover a lot of things. Most people who start businesses, they have never read the story of an entrepreneur. Or you can buy films, videos, DVDs, and you look at films of entrepreneurs if you don't like to read. But you know, you have to familiarize yourself with what it means to be an entrepreneur. There are loads of films about Steve Jobs, about many famous entrepreneurs in Brazil, in all around the world. And you should get involved in some activities of some sort where you work. It depends where you are in society, but you should, people who have managed projects, people who have managed people who have done something have an advantage because they know what it is to design a project, to manage people, to hire people, to manage them, and to develop a project. But you need to be able to know a bit about the life of the entrepreneur and how you can become passionate about something. You know, to have an interest where you will learn about something. And if you can spend some time with somebody who is already acting as an entrepreneur. You know, research is showing that our students who go in their vacation and work in small business, they tend to become entrepreneurs in the proportion of the double of the general population.
And why do you think is that?
Well, that happens because entrepreneurship is something that is done. You know, there is something of the monkey among human beings. People tend to imitate what they have already seen. So when people see or read or see entrepreneurs, it gives them a reference element of behavior they will replicate.
One thing that I notice in beginners, people who are entering this world, is that mostly if they had a previous career working for someone, is that it takes a time to realize that you are the boss, that no one will tell you what you have to do. You are the person who has to tell, who has to decide, to choose. Is there if we have partners, let's say we are starting a business with partners, what can we do to help each other to see that we are the bosses? No one will tell us what to do.
Well, you know, if you start with partners, you need to spend time to discuss together. And it's not easy to start with partners. It has advantages and inconveniences. Okay, partnership adds a level of complexity to the process because you have to spend a lot of time. If people are very experienced, it's easy. But if people are not experienced, to be in partnership takes a lot of talking and a lot of time. If people are university graduates and they have worked in teams and they know what it means to work with another, it can be good. But if people have a low level of education, it's endless the time they may have to spend together to agree on things, to agree on the vision, to agree on the opportunity, to agree about how things will be done. So it depends on the complexity of the project too. So in technologies, you will work with partners and people will need a leader who will distribute the responsibilities of each one, because it's very important between partners that each one have their own territory, their own specialty area. One will be responsible for marketing, another one for production, another one for finance, and so on. But if people have a low level of education, have not much work experience, it's much easier if they work with a mentor and work on their own first, and then they can try in a second, a bit later, a few months or a few years later, to start with somebody else. But if people have a low level of education, it's more risky to be in partnership, and it may take a long time. If people are in the same craft, if the two of them are plumbers, the two of them are doing the same craft, it's easier because they are already being trained to do that craft. If both of them are very good at something and they've been educated, they've been trained to do it, they're lawyers, they are doctors in medicine or whatever, well, because they have the basic training of the craft, that is easier.
You said that there are three skills that are fundamental to achieve success. Knowing how to define, knowing how to act, and knowing how to predict. Could you explain a little bit what do you mean by that?
Okay, well, you take questions there that are not for beginners, because you took that in some of my writing that is a bit more advanced. Mm-hmm. It comes from on the third or fourth session in a course, and people who see that only like that, they may be difficult for them to understand. Entrepreneurs, they define process, they define the products, they define the place they want to occupy in the market. So, but you don't start with that in the learning of entrepreneurship. You learn first what it is to be an entrepreneur, what it is to design a business, and so on, and then you get in the skills, because you have to understand a game before you start educating the players about specific skills. So entrepreneurs, they are definer of concept, of context, sorry, and they are good to get into action, and their experience is a key element if you have done something before, and to think about the future. But to think about the future, to have a projective thinking that allows you to predict what will happen on the longer run, is for less than 1% of entrepreneurs who really learn to do that, and they will have enterprises that will grow. 90% of businesses are micro businesses where there is very little projective thinking. So here, these three elements, they are for growing entrepreneurs. We go much deeper on these aspects, because these entrepreneurs, they want to grow, and they get in the thinking process of entrepreneurs, where you define, you think about future action, and you do projective thinking in order to try to understand what will come in the future.
So you have to think about these three keys if you want to grow, if you want to take the next step, if you already achieved some level of expertise as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, but all entrepreneurs say they want to grow, but in reality, very few will grow because very few really want it.
Yeah, it takes work.
It takes a lot of rigor and method in the organization of the work and of the thinking and the way you operate. And you have about 1%, between 1 and 2% who will really grow, to develop a small and medium-sized business, and you have less than 1% who will really grow to develop a business that will become bigger than only a medium size.
Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about these beginners and the young people. It seems that young people have good chances to succeed today, maybe because they are more able to innovate, that is more natural to them. Do you agree that this is why they have good chances, or do they have good chances?
Well, I think the young people are less afraid than the previous generation to do new things. I don't find them particularly creative or innovative. When we do contests and they have to find ideas to help in case studies, I don't find them, people who have had experience, who are in their, let's say, 25 years old and older, are more creative than than the students in the university who are 16, 17, 18. They are funny. They look creative, but it's not easy to find for them to find the real good creative idea that really leads to innovation. That's something else. But they are more relaxed. They are not afraid to take risks, to get into the bath, and to jump into the water, even if they have not learned how to swim yet. So because, an entrepreneur before is like a swimmer. Before you jump in the water, you have to learn some basic element. And the young ones, they don't mind if they have not learned it. They just like to throw themselves in the water and try to go. And they learn by doing. So that's different. And it's interesting because you can see that there are more and more new venture creation, and you will have more and more entrepreneurs in the young generation, but they don't grow fast. They don't grow. They work on their own, and sometimes they hire an employee. It takes them quite a few years to learn the basic and really get into being real entrepreneurs who can innovate and really grow. And worldwide.
What?
Worldwide, everywhere in the world.
Yeah. And this, I guess that there is a good thing about it, because we did a research among women, and we saw a lot of fear. We are afraid of this, we are afraid of that, and fear is something that I guess the entrepreneur has to deal all the time, to act even if they are afraid of something.
Well, especially for women. Women are much more cautious, and they are more risk averse than the men. So they're more careful, and they tend to be more afraid than the men.
Did you ever have a chance to study women entrepreneurs specifics?
Yes, sure. I have many times, and one of my doctorate students, who is now a professor in Brazil, Professor Candido Borges. He is a professor at the University Federal of Goiás in Goiânia. Yeah. And we worked together. We even won an international award for our research on women entrepreneurs. And I published a book recently, Innovate the Feminine Way, about case studies, and I have a lot of text in it about women entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. So the difference is that they are more cautious, the women. They are more careful. Their business don't grow as much as the one by men, because they don't spend as much time with the business as men do. So the wide majority of businesses created by women everywhere in the world remain smaller, less than 5 employees. Very few grow over 5 employees. And they treat the people as family. They are more careful with the people. They are more flexible. They are more relaxed with the personnel. So it's different, of course, but in the young generation, you see less and less differences between the male and female.
Yeah, the people who are starting now. And we see a lot of women that are choosing this path because they chose to be mothers. We saw a new word, mompreneur. I don't know if
all these books about mompreneurs is because these women, they have created a business, and they want to use the business to educate their children. So they work with their children in the business, and you have women of all ages, and they use the business as an education process, and the kids, they work in the business, but they learn at the same time. And it's very interesting because the learning by doing has a very good effect on the creativity, because the learning by doing helps develop the right side of the brain, which is the creativity side, while the learning by reading and in the school system develops the brain through reading and through analysis, and it develops more the left side of the brain. So mompreneurs, it's like if they develop their own universities, their own schooling system, and it's a way of living, and that's a way of learning for the children too.
And do you think that entrepreneurship is a good way to give women and mothers flexibility, more power of choosing, and I see that as a very powerful thing that they take in account to make this decision?
Absolutely, and it gives them more freedom too. You know, entrepreneurship is a way to happiness, because happiness I define as to live in harmony with yourself, and entrepreneurship allows you a higher level of happiness because you have a control over your destiny. And the young mother, or the mother, whatever is the age of the children, who start a business, and it allows these ladies much more freedom in the way to organize their life, and it keeps them in touch with their children to have really the type of education they want their children to have. So that's a great way to raise kids.
If you could give these women advice, to give them advice on how to do this better, to make less mistakes, what would you say to them?
Well, take the children in the business, when they are 10, 12 years old, and give them, ask them small things to do after they come back from school, or on the Saturday, when they are out of school. If they want to work in the business, you give them small tasks. In Brazil, I've been asked many times by people who have businesses if they should take the children in the business, because they don't see in Brazil, many people don't see that it's a good thing. They have a driver, and the driver sends the kids to follow a class of tennis, a course to learn this, and the driver is driving the kids all over, and they don't like to see, many people don't see that it could be a good thing to have the children to work in the business, but it's a very good way to raise children, because it gives people a much better equilibrium in the way that they grow and in the way that they learn.
Yeah, I was raised inside my mother's business. And I guess it was a great school. It was a great school. Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much to take this time out of your schedule to talk to these women. And I want to close asking you if you have a message that you want to leave.
Well, I can see that entrepreneurship is growing in Brazil. I can see Brazil is on a real entrepreneurship wave. And, I was a pioneer of entrepreneurship in Brazil in the 1980s. And now I've gone to Brazil almost every year in the last 30 years. And I can see how entrepreneurship is progressing. And I think that now Brazilians could use much more the services, the support systems that are being set up for them. And I'm very confident that Brazilians will be better and better entrepreneurs. Brazil is a big country with a wonderful internal market. That's fantastic compared to a country. Canada, is bigger than Brazil, but we have only 30 million people. In Brazil, you have almost 200 million people in the same type of territory. And you don't have the winter, so the transport of goods is much easier all the time. So Brazil is a fantastic place to start a business, and I can see that wave, that entrepreneurship wave, and I can see that women are taking their place into that, and there is more and more room for women. It's just for the women to go into it.
Yeah, we hope that with all these interviews we can help them. And thank you for helping us to do that.
Muito obrigado, my pleasure.
Obrigada a você, professor. The pleasure is
Take
mine.
care.